House Chairperson.
Good morning, honourable members. Let's firstly observe a moment for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 28, police, including vote number 24, Independent Police Investigative Directorate, and vote number 21, Civilian Secretariat for Police Service, Appropriation Bill.
I recognise the Honourable the Minister of Police.
Thank you, House Chair, Honourable Deputy Ministers of Police, Oshielo and Motale, the Chair of the Portfolio Committee, Honourable members. I'm honoured indeed to stand before you today to deliver the budget vote for the departments and entities reporting to the Ministry of Police, namely the South African Police Service, for 28, Civilian Secretariat for Police Service, for 21, and the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, for 24. It has been a year since we took office as Ministry of Police, a journey that has been marked by urgency, by consultation, and a deep commitment to the safety and security of every person who calls this country home. In leading the portfolio of police, we do so with full appreciation of the constitutional mandate entrusted to South African Police Service, a mandate to prevent, a mandate to combat and investigate crime while maintaining public order, protect and secure the inhabitants of the Republic, their property, and uphold and enforce the law. These responsibilities lie at the very heart of a functioning democracy and are central to the well-being of our people and the stability of our country. Honourable members, the 7th administration has outlined 3 priorities. Those are well known in the House. But over and above that, as ministry, we have refined and adopted a clear forecast list of priorities for ourselves within those that have been identified at the national level. They are as follows: reducing the murder rate, reducing illegal firearms, dismantling drug networks, fighting gender-based violence and femicide. Those are the 4 that are the top priorities. But in addition to those, we have committed to dealing with illegal immigration, reducing organized crime, reducing stock theft and cash in transit, reducing gang violence, and clamping down on illegal mining and tackling corruption within the SAPS. That's the total of our priorities. Now, to deliver on these, we've identified a number of enablers, namely the enhancement of technology within SAPS, strengthening intelligence, that is crime intelligence, capacitating and upskilling our detectives, improving forensic services, and improving fleet management and any other support system that is required in terms of assisting police in doing their work. We have committed to upgrading our infrastructure, especially police stations. and support, administrative support to be given to them, and improving working and living conditions for police officers. So that's the list of enablers that we've identified that are required in the environment. Now, the South African Police Service has been allocated, the budget of the South African Police has been allocated to the tune of 120 billion, 890 million rand. That's 120.8 billion for the 25-26 financial year. And then this budget will be spread across all the various programs that we have. And then there are specific allocations that have been made, like for instance, 219.2 million that will secure the G20 conference that is coming at the end of the year. And then 400 million for local government elections that are coming, 34 million for additional post of a deputy minister. 150 million has been shifted from SAP's operational budget to the Directorate of Priority Crime Investigation, that is DPCI, so that they can do much more work. Now, compensation of employees remains the primary cost driver, accounting for 81% of the budget. Within the current funding framework, the SAPS anticipates replacing personnel lost through natural attrition by enlisting 5,500 new police trainees by January next year, over and above the 5,500 that are being trained right now. This recruitment will be funded through the department's baseline allocation, maintaining personnel complement at about 188,000 throughout the MTEF. And this is very important that we ensure. And of course, the 81% I'm talking about as the compensation budget is seen by all of us together with management as a threat, which we need to maintain. Visible policing will account for more than 53% of the total vote in the 25-26 financial year, while detective services will account for 20% of the budget. Now, honorable members, this budget is about improving policing in South Africa. And that is the new approaches that we have developed and continue to develop, enhancing methods of policing, intensifying effectiveness of policing, and improved efficiencies by police service. Firstly, we have repeatedly mentioned that there are 4 provinces that are a problem in the country, namely Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN, and Gauteng. The recent random waves of gang violence in Cape Town from the 22nd of June up to yesterday, resulting in a total of 18 murders, is a source of grave concern to the ministry. It is clear that identified high crime zones in all 4 provinces require intelligence-led targeted deployment of specialized units to combat criminality over and above Operation Chanela. A total of 225 hotspots police stations have been identified, demanding targeted and synchronized interventions. Not only have we delved on strategies, but we have also developed plans that are on the table for implementation. These named provinces have been prioritized in the allocation of baseline budgets. And this includes additional 85 million to support the top 30 plus 5 high contact crime stations. Community engagements will also be supported through an allocation of 28 million for community policing forums, which will be used to procure essential resources such as torches, reflective jackets, and cones. A further 8.5 million is allocated for community interaction activities, including Izimbizo awareness campaigns and some other interventions that involve communities. Gender-based violence and femicide remains one of the most pressing challenges of our nation. We've tightened up coordination as government, a number of departments together, and response with all the relevant departments. And we are ready to work with the GBVNF Council and community-based organization under the leadership of social development and the other department of women and children and people with disabilities. The country is gripped and aggrieved by GBVNF as its prevalence has reached distressing levels, and approximately 1.6 billion will be spent on baseline activities relating to GBVNF response, including 1.5 billion for family violence, child protection and sexual offences units, and 40 million for youth and vulnerable groups awareness campaigns, an additional 50 million allocated for provinces to strengthen their own GBVNF responses. The current visible policing division has been restructured to enhance proactive policing, increase visibility, and better utilize our specialized units. As such, there are now two separate divisions there. One is visible policing and the other one is operational response services. This needs to be operationalized as soon as possible so that we can increase the combative edge of South African police. We can confirm that the appointment processes of a Divisional Commissioner of Operational Services is at an advanced stage. This will enable us to meaningfully fight crime in the streets and in communities where people live and are complaining about violence. On infrastructure, 670 million has been allocated for construction and upgrading of police stations. But in addition, we're partnering with other finance units or agencies in government so that we can increase our pace to build police stations. There are complaints all over and calls for more police stations, upgrades for those that are there, and all of that. And it is for that reason that we want to go beyond the budget that we have this financial year. Now, in 2025-26 financial year, the SAPS will continue to advance this modernization agenda through deployment of strategic technology solutions aimed at improving operational efficiency, situational awareness, and public safety. Technology will play a central role, and increasingly so, because we realize that the level where we are at the moment requires a drastic improvement in terms of use of technology in SAPS. We are pleased that the strategic partnerships remain a cornerstone of SAPS transformation agenda, and we have actively sought innovative partnerships, notably with Business Against Crime. And together we are piloting automated police stations, starting 5 identified throughout the Republic, and expanding the number of forensic labs in the country and integrating our systems with those of the private sector. And later this month, we will be meeting CEOs who are part of Business Against Crime to finalize the rollout of our plans. And we're happy that there are tangible things that we're now doing with business. On human resource, we are also addressing internal matters that directly affect the functionality and credibility of the SAPS. We take this opportunity to confirm the recent arrests of senior officers in crime intelligence following investigations by the Inspector General for Intelligence and the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. As the ministry, we have taken a defiant stance against corruption within the SAPS, and we are unequivocally, we unequivocally state that there is no tolerance for corruption within SAPS. We have introduced a set of human resource measures aimed at restoring morale, discipline, professionalism within the ranks. These include improving recruitment processes, leadership development, career pathing, because to build a credible police service, we must start from within. The 5,500 police trainees there are that number that are receiving training currently, and there will be a pass out as early as August this year, and then we'll add next year. Now, as the country's final line of defense against serious corruption, serious organized crime and serious commercial crime, DPCI plays a pivotal role in safeguarding justice and upholding the integrity of democracy institutions. In 2025 financial year, DPCI will strengthen its focus on national priority crimes. When I come back, I'll conclude on this matter and indeed proceed to the conclusion remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is the auditor.
Greetings to the House Chairperson, members of the Executive, Minister, Deputy Ministers, the National Commissioner, honorable members. We welcome and support the budget vote 28, 24, 21 of Police, the Civil Secretariat, IPIT, as it anchored by the National Development Plan, aligned to the ANC manifesto commitments, which includes intensifying the fight against crime, strengthening our response to gender-based violence and femicide, keeping our homes and streets safe, protecting our borders, and creating employment opportunities. On drugs, the 2025 and the 2026 budget and revised annual performance plan indicate that the Directorate for Priority Crimes has increased its budget allocation for the thorough and responsive investigation of crimes in an effort to reduce organized crimes of drug syndicates, and this will be done through the Narcotics Intervention Strategy and the National Drug Master Plan. The fight against drugs is a difficult one, but one we cannot afford to lose. And that is why we need to improve our oversight mechanisms and call for stricter border controls, harsher sentence, and the deployment of specialized crime intelligence units to attend to the issues of drugs. The South African Police Service continues its nationwide Chanela operations with intensified operations across all provinces to prevent and combat crime. They have achieved remarkable successes which stem from proactive policing tactics. We welcome the launch of Operation Chanela 2 in the Western Cape, which has resulted in many drug-related arrests over the past 2 weeks. Although we acknowledge the work done under the Operation Chanela, but maintain that this is not enough. Hotspot areas that are notorious for drug dealing and gangsterism need a more focused and specialized unit to deal with deeply entrenched criminal networks. The numerous and significant drug seizures by the authorities at international airports and other ports of entries indicate that there is a lucrative market in South Africa. From international drug syndicates, it is quite evident that the intelligence is on the ground and police officers are hard at work in clamping down the flow of drug, whether it is from within the country or outside the border. We've seen a commitment to dislodge drug networks even going as far as establishing working relations with international laws authorities in case of international cross-border smuggling. We further encourage the police to conduct the routine checks, such as sizes, because from time to time we hear of vital road accidents because someone was heavily intoxicated by drugs or other substance. We remain very clear in our call to declare any form of intoxication on public roads a criminal offense. In that spirit, we intensify our campaign and call up on the liquor boards, municipalities, and the community members to work closely with the police by ensuring that licenses are adhered to. On gender-based violence continues to plague South Africa and its national pandemic that devastates the individuals, the communities, and families. We note that most police stations across the country have complied with the establishment of the family violence, the child protection, and sexual offense units that are specifically established for the purpose of investigation, the prosecution of sexual crimes, assault, and murder. We are still concerned that not all police stations have a dedicated violence desk and victim-friendly rooms and lack of the standardization of these victims to support the centers across the provinces. The status of the forensic science laboratories and continue reported the DNA backlogs remain worrisome and threatens the administrations of justice to victims of gender-based violence due to the lack of evidence. In this financial year, we want to see the case backlog being resolved. We want to see partnership with private forensic science laboratories, and we want to see more personnel trained in the specific area of the DNA evidence. We are encouraged by the mobilization around some of the most outraged gender-based violence and femicide cases the country has witnessed over the past couple of months. We would like to reiterate that the best interest of the child must always take precedence in line with the children's right and the rights of the child as set out in the Constitution. In its spirit that we welcome the launch and signing ceremony of the collaborative implementation protocol between the South African Police Service and the Department of Basic Education. This is a significant milestone in the broader collective mission to build a safe and a secure, nurturing environments for every learner across our country. The program aims to strengthen the safe school committees, like link schools to local police stations, that ensure the immediate access to law enforcement, resources and facilities, communications and collaborations. This is a commendable proactive steps from the South African Police Service. We need to see more visible and proactive policing in tackling gender-based violence. On rural and safety and stock theft, servicing rural areas remains challenging for the police due to the geographical locations. By design, the isolatedness and vast spread out design of farms in rural areas make them more opportunistic to violence crimes. Geographically, farms in rural areas are very diverse, with difficulties, roads, mountains, very large and expansive areas. These areas are often serviced by one nuclear police stations, which is not equitable resource to service all the areas and provide a timely response. In in this spirit that we continue to reiterate the need for adequate budgeting, capacitation, and resourcing of rural police stations. We require the adequate resource allocation to rural police stations and stock dev units, and we need this to be included in the National Resources Plan of the South African Police Service. We need equitable vehicles, crime prevention equipment. Example, police in metros can drive a smaller vehicles, while in rural areas they would require larger vehicles and more animal power to do the job. We also call for the community collaboration, community policing forums in working relations with the traditional authorities to expand the police reach. The success of the rural strategy requires a greater coordination between police, farm owners, and farm workers, traditional leaders, and members of the community. As the African National Congress government, we deplore the cold-blooded killings that have been taking place on farms in rural areas across the country. We must never be comfortable with normalizing farm and rural murders and never characterize them as yet as another future of South African life. Beyond the immediate human suffering and lack of stability and security, the killings in the farming communities cause a severe disruption to our economy. Farms employ a sizable number of the population. We remain concerned with the very violent acts of stock theft and murders taking place, particularly in the Eastern Cape, Free State, and Limpopo. The stability of our society should not be marked by how many criminals we apprehend, but should be measured by the detection and low levels of crimes. As deterrence, we need to encourage the branding of livestock as does assist with identification and the convictions. On the view that stock theft in South Africa is an organized crime, we call on the police to take seriously investigation.
Thank you, Honorable Klute.
To the allocation of police, we are suspected to be the working.
Your time
with
is
the
now
criminals.
expired.
The ANC supported that.
Honorable Skosana.
I got relax. I'm watching here. Chair, honorable members, as we are sitting here today, yesterday, 5 people were shot dead in Mitchell's Plain. In Tafelsig, in Bacon View, as we are sitting here, our people are crying. Our people are being killed. I rise here today to deliver a message that echoes throughout our nation, and our people have been betrayed by the very institution meant to safeguard them. SAPS and IPAD are failing in their mandate. They are failing to protect, to prevent, and worst of all, failing to be held accountable. This budget debate is not just a number exercise. The figures we debate today represent the state priorities. They expose whether the DA-led coalition government is committed to building a safer South Africa or a content with allowing crime and incompetency to thrive unchecked. We as MK Party reject this budget, not out of political malice, but out of moral necessity. Yesterday, I witnessed one of the most saddest days in my life. You know, when you are in an abusive relationship, that is undermining the government. And I just want to remind the last speaker, he says the ANC government. There's no longer an ANC government. Let's face it. We have a coalition government in this country, which is very unfortunate. South Africa battles as unprecedented crime crisis. The murder rate has escalated by 5% in the past year, with over 27,000 people murdered, a figure more commonly associated with a nation at war. It is a chilling indictment of a police service that has lost control and complicity government. Remember, we changed from South African police to South African police service. We must service our people. Gender-based violence continues to devastate our society. Contracted crime against women are at a horrifying levels. Crime against children rose by 13%, reflecting a system that fails to protect the most vulnerable. These are not abstract statistics. They represent shattered families, traumatized survivors, grieving core communities. SAPS detection rates for murder is at a critical low level, made us go scot-free one too many times. What is more terrifying than the crime itself is the lack of accountability. This budget, if passed in its current form, is a death sentence for thousands more South Africans who will continue to be failed by the state. IPID is meant to serve as a check on police abuses and investigate police misconduct and criminality. According to the latest state minister, police-related deaths rose by 12%, rape by police officers rose by 15%, and corruption within SAPS surged by 20%. Despite IPID investigative output remains at alarming low. The directorate has set a target only 35 rape cases for investigation in 2025, 2026. It can't be. And just 40 corruption cases over 3 years. These numbers are laughable, inadequate, and serve as a reflection of an under-resourced and underperforming IPID. The IPID budget proposed allocation of 466 million by 2027, 2028, but with a backlog of 10,500 cases and only 9 million rand allocated for forensic investigators. We are essentially throwing a glass of water on forest fire, pure strategic failure. The SAPS and IPAD budgets reveal a disturbing trend. Massive allocation for administration, insignificant investment in tangible, effective crime fighting. SAPS 72 billion is set aside for administration, much of which goes to bloated management structure and system that seems more interested in sustaining itself than saving the public. Meanwhile, only 24 billion is allocated to detective service, despite crippling backlogs. The forensic science lab, vital for solving crimes using the DNA as evidence, is given 1.7 billion, a trivial amount given to the demand it faces. IP 10 million allocation for capital assets, including forensic tools and technology, represent less than 2.5% of its budget. How can any institution combat modern, complex crime with modern tools, without modern tools? At the same time, 203 million is allocated awareness campaign, a vague term that does not literally bring justice to victims. We are funding a ribbon cutting while ignoring rape kits, lab tests, and detective capacity, a political theater at the taxpayer's expense. We must stop this. Chairperson, the greatest threat is not only the criminal on the street, but also the criminal in uniform. Corruption within SAPS is rampant, yet the budget offers no credible plan to root it out. The so-called lifestyle audits mentioned in the budgets are nothing more than a PR exercise. Officers implicated in criminality continue to rise throughout the ranks, protected by political connection and institutionalized silence. You know that the crime intelligence boss was arrested recently, which gives a bad image for the country. 5.6 billion is allocated for a fleet service, yet across the country, police vehicles sit idling due to mismanagement and lack of maintenance. Officers are forced to respond to emergency in a depleted vans, if at all. 150 million has been reprioritized for financial forensic capabilities, but this is a drop in an ocean when South Africa remains on a FTAF grey listed for money laundering. The failure of crime intelligence, which received about 5 billion rand, is not due to lack of funding. It's due to lack of integrity and oversight. For rural communities, the situation is even worse. IPAD Rural Strategy is a shallow public relation campaign. The plan is to conduct 86 outreach events over 3 years, cost of 203 million. It's a disconnect from reality. Rural areas are plagued by police brutality and delay responding time. The outreach efforts are nothing more than a political window dressing, further abandoning a rural citizen of this country. Umkhonto weSizwe Party will demand of the allocated detective service budget priority is given to clear backlog of cases. Justice delay is justice denied. Secondly, we call for a 2 billion investment in upgrading forensic lab, ensuring DNA and other evidence and other process efficiently. Thirdly, 10 billion should be directed to community police forums, empowering citizens to work with ethical officers to reclaim their street. Fourthly, independent anti-corruption task force must be established to patch both SAPS and IPAD of criminal elements. Finally, we must hire at least 20 to 30,000 new police officers and deploy them in strategical areas. Chair, it emboldens a corruption and efficiency and erosion of public trust. Today, we stand in a country where criminals feel safer than law-abiding citizens, all attributed to failures of the so-called GNU. This budget does not represent progress. We reject this budget in totality. We are not saying police should not get salaries. We are not saying, everything must stand still. But Minister, I'm pleading with you. I know you've got a really serious abusive relationship with the DA. Now, I'm appealing to you to ask the Minister of Public Works to build police stations for our people. And indeed, if you can, divorce them. Thank you. Umkhonto weSizwe reject this budget in totality. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honorable Schikkerling.
Good morning, Honourable House Chair and Honourable Members. Today I rise with purpose and resolve on behalf of the Democratic Alliance to speak on Budget Vote 24, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate. Let me be crystal clear. Talking about IPID in isolation is a political deflection. This body exists to hold SAPS accountable. But what happens when SAPS itself is in a state of collapse, when those meant to enforce the law are the very ones that are violating it? IPID has been allocated 428.6 million rand for this financial year. But let's not be fooled. It's still nowhere near what is needed to fulfill its constitutional mandate, especially not when over 64% of that budget must go to investigations and provincial coordination, where backlogs are mounting and investigators are overwhelmed. Meanwhile, SAPS was handed 120.8 billion rand, a figure that is obscene when measured against its collapsing credibility, soaring crime stats, and growing corruption. One must ask, are we funding public safety or institutional failure? The reality on the ground is devastating. South Africa has some of the highest GBV and femicide rates in the world. Yet IPID's annual target for police rape cases is a mere 35 decision-ready cases within 210 days. That's not a plan. That's an admission of defeat, a resignation letter addressed to every woman that the system has failed. And in the entire Eastern Cape, a province riddled with rural policing challenges, IPID now has just one operational office left. How are survivors in Lusikisiki, Mthatha, or Queenstown meant to report police abuse? It's clear the system is designed to exhaust the victim and protect the perpetrator. And where is the civilian secretariat? They're silent. The very program tasked with monitoring the SAPS and tracking IPID recommendations has been allocated just 37 million for their financial year. And their own documents confirm what we already know. Their oversight reports are routinely ignored. We do not have a crisis of legislation. We have a crisis of enforcement, a crisis of accountability and of ethics. And we must urgently transform IPID into a body that no longer begs the SAPS to do what's right, but compels them to. That is why the DA supports the recommendation in the IPID report to transform the directorate into a body modeled on Kenya's Independent Policing Oversight Authority, with binding powers, true independence, and the authority to compel both the SAPS and the NPA to act on its recommendations. The DA will continue to fight for reforms that mandate the implementation of IPID findings, enforceable timelines, transparent case tracking, and full public accountability. But let's be honest, fixing oversight alone is not enough. Policing in South Africa needs urgent reform, not as an option, but as a necessity. We need well-trained officers, properly resourced stations, modern technology, and zero tolerance for abuse. And yes, it is time to devolve policing powers to capable provinces and municipalities. Why should local communities continue to suffer while Pretoria clings to power that it neither has the will nor the capacity to use effectively? And while we're at it, let's be bold. Let's end cadre deployment, promote on merit, equip detectives, hire professionals, fire abusers. This is not radical, it's responsible governance. South Africans are tired. Tired of watching Parliament pour billions into a broken system while rape kits expire, dockets disappear, and corrupt officers are quietly transferred instead of prosecuted. Despite the many challenges, there are signs of hope in this budget and some steps in the right direction. The introduction of the integrated case management is a significant leap forward in operational efficiency, as this system promises to digitize case tracking, integrate data within SAPS, and boost transparency. By addressing one of IPID's key obstacles, manual data inefficiencies, it has the potential to clear backlogs and improve investigative outcomes once fully implemented. IPID's commitment of a 5% increase in decision-ready GBV cases is a small but crucial step toward breaking the culture of impunity within the SAPS. That's why the DA supports evidence-based policing, hotspot patrols, technology-driven crime protection, and community-led safety. We need a police force that earns public respect and not one that instills fear. In conclusion, Chairperson, this is not just a budget debate, it's a moral reckoning. We are not here to decorate failure, we are here to change the game. South Africans need safety. They need oversight and teeth. They need justice, not just policing. Let us fund not just a line item. Let us fund lives. I thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize the Honourable Matthys.
Chair, you're going to have to give me extra time. Can you hear them?
Your 6 minutes have not started moving, but maybe it will now.
Thank you, House Chair. We join the nation as we mourn the passing of the former Deputy President, David Mabuza. May his family, his friends, and the ANC National Congress find strength and peace, actually, as they prepare for the send-off of their beloved. Chairperson, the Economic Freedom Fighters unsurprisingly rejects the budget votes for SAPS, for IPID, and the Civilian Secretariat for Police of the South African Police Service. And we do so for the following reasons. Quarter after quarter, SAPS publishes statistics of ridiculously high levels of crime. And we're not going to use our time to provide the stats, but a quick overview here is that on an average, there are 10,000 murders every 3 months. There are 12,000 reported, these are not the people who don't report, rape cases, and thousands more sexual assaults. And there's a dramatic increase in the cases of kidnapping, particularly of children who are trafficked to be used as sex slaves. All of this and much more that I haven't told you tells us that the 120 billion rand that has been appropriated to SAPS for its budget is not going to reduce crime. And even, Minister, if we add your President Ramaphosa's pala dollars, it's not going to help. What has been reported about the dysfunctionality of SAPS is actually just the tip of the iceberg. And if we continue down this path, South Africa is going to lead the world in committing mob justice purely because the police is the chief criminal syndicate. Now, let us explain something. One of the English dictionaries defines a criminal syndicate as a group of people or organizations that work together in an organized way to commit crime. The key characteristics of a criminal syndicate are, firstly, that the group must be a structured organization. Secondly, the group must be aimed at committing serious crimes for profit and for power. Thirdly, the group must have an inclination for using extreme violence, intimidation, and all this adds up to corruption. Chairperson, it's not difficult to conclude that SAPS is the biggest criminal syndicate in this country, and all other syndicates serve under it. They operate with the permission of SAPS or for the benefit of some of the key figures within SAPS. And we have a history of high-ranking SAPS officials caught with their hands in the cookie jar of corruption, from Salebi to Bernings to Kamutso to Dumsani, Kamalo, and now we even have the whole national commissioner who's on the radar. And those are just a few of those who are actually caught or have become collateral damage in this criminal syndicate. And remember what I said, this is just a tip of an iceberg. We know that assassinations, especially political ones, are covered up. Investigating officers get arrested or fired when they do their jobs rather than succumb to the instructions of the SAPS criminal syndicate. We know that here in the Western Cape, the anti-gang unit is in fact deeply embedded in gang violence and the politics of the Western Cape. We know that General Kene was killed after gang kingpins were tipped off by the very same members of the anti-gang unit. The interests of the gangs and the interests of the key figures within SAPS are mutually symbiotic. We know that the cases of the little girl, Kwekwe, for instance, that SAPS failed to perform even the very basic investigative work. And they allowed that racist organization called AfriForum to dictate the terms of defense for their racist organization. SAPS took directives from AfriForum and has now left the floodgates open for abuse of a little African child. We also know that SAPS took no action against this racist group called AfriForum, who has gone around the world committing treasonous acts against our country. And yes, Chair, this is one of the characteristics of a criminal syndicate. There is no justice for the majority. It is just a weapon at the hands of those who have power and who has money. Let's go to the FCS. There are high-ranking officials there that spend more time harassing complainants or just outright ignoring them. You see, Chair, criminal syndicates dictate who will access justice, how they will access it, and they even go as far as threatening and using the same justice system against parents who dare to seek justice for their children who are raped, who are trafficked, and who are abused. And then we can simply just take a look at the rapid increase of extortion and gang-related violence here in the Western Cape. And all these, and this list is actually endless, speaks to institutionalized criminality in SAPS. SAPS is the chief criminal syndicate in this country. And there is no urgent, and if there's no urgent reform, Minister, there's nothing that is going to happen. You can hire as many more young recruits. If the institution is not reformed, these young recruits will just be recruited into criminality that is deeply embedded in SAPS. But we want to pay tribute to the few honest members of SAPS. We know that some of you have been removed, you've been arrested as a result of this SAPS criminal syndicate. And on behalf of all South Africans, keep up the fight. Keep blowing the whistle until these syndicates fall. And we pay particular respect to the KZN Commissioner, whose example shines bright across the country. There's no amount of money, and even the most sterling programs minister is not going to reduce crime.
Your time has now
as
expired.
SAPS operates as the chief criminal syndicate. We
Thank you.
reject all these budgets.
Honorable Nkosi Kebekulu.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Criminals have declared war on people of South Africa. Life is taken without remorse and often at a price. Crime in this country does not discriminate. It simply takes. While statistics may reflect certain trends, they fail to capture the daily fear and trauma that ordinary citizens suffer. Those who cannot afford private alternatives to state protection are left at the mercy of the criminals. South Africans, are at their lowest. It is not yet not their safety. It is then harsh economic climate they are forced to navigate. Honorable Chairperson, the IFP welcomes the increased allocation of the CSPS, a key strategic budget theme in the professionalization and ethical conduct of policing. However, our concern stems from recent events that have exposed deep-rooted corruption within the police. Disturbingly, it was senior members of the intelligence services tasked with gathering and analyzing intelligence to combat crime who were themselves arrested for corruption. This undermines public trust and threatens the integrity of policing South Africa. The cracks in crime intelligence are evident in our country. Therefore, the IFP is in support of the committee's recommendation that the department should invest in digital monitoring tools such as electronic dashboards. The IFP welcomes the significant allocation toward the fight against gender-based violence and femicide, which rightly underscores the centrality of gender justice as a priority. However, our concern lies in consistent handling of GBVF cases at police stations. The sensitivity and support required in such as cases are often lacking, and this undermines the effectiveness of operation. IPID requires a substantial budget to fulfill its oversight mandate. While the 10% increase is welcomed, it falls short of what is needed to tackle the challenges in our policing system. Therefore, the IFP is in support of committee's recommendation that the IPID be empowered to initiate investigations on its own accord without requiring a formal complaint. Chairperson, let me move a bit. Chair, Hlonishwa Ngqongqoshe sinengxaki ey'ndaweni zamakhaya kulo mkhankaso oqoqwe kwibhamu engekho emthethweni. Abantu baqhuba inzondo ukuthi basasazele omakhelwane ngamaphoyisa bengenayo ibhamu. Silahlekelwe imphefumulo kweminye imindeni, amaphoyisa ayebafaka amashubhu ngoba bethi babakhipha ibhamu ezingekho. Siyocela ukuthi umnyango ubheke ukuthi ngeke intelligence kube yiyona ehamba phambili ukubona ukuthi okushiwoyo ngomuntu ukuthi unesibhamu ngeke emthethweni kuliqiniso lomqala. Okunye mhlonishwa, sinenselele emakhaya yokubuya kwemfuyo, sineyidleke lapho kugcina khona imfuyo, abakwazi abafuyi kuyongena khona bofuna imfuyo yabo. Siyacela ukuthi umnyango awuzame ukwelula isandla ungenelele ukulekelela ngoba abafowethu abesikebhe nabo noma umkhulumeni engathanda ubemukela, kodwa kukhona ukubonakalayo abakwenzayo. Ziyatholakala ezinye zey'nkomo ey'suke zebiwe ngoba abasuke amasela amanye ayaye avume ayikhombe ukuthi zikuphi inkomo. Inkinga bese kuba ukuthi uma seyilandwa baphethe ibhamu laba abagcina iy'nkomo lapha bese bakhona izimpi zey'bhamu. Mhlawumbe uma umnyango ungasilekelela lapho singasho emathathu nathi mhlawumbe sihleli kahle ngoba kuhlungu ukuthi nithi nihleli nani amabhenki enu niwabeke ey'bayeni bese kufika njena abafike beyithathele ngoba siyakholelwa thina ukuthi ibhenki lomnumzana isibaya kunokuthi imali yakho igcinwa emabhange esingabazi obani bahlala kuphi abanikazi balawo mabhange. I-IFP-ke nokho-ke iyasekela-ke uhlahlomali lomnyango. Ngiyathokoza.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Van Wyk.
Honorable House Chair, honorable members, fellow South Africans. Let me start by saying that in principle, as a partner of the GNU, the Patriotic Alliance support the budgets, votes 28, 24, and 21. However, I want to touch on a few important issues today. In fact, I want to be historically clear. Yesterday, 11 people were shot and killed on the Cape Flats. The DA said nothing. Until today, the DA said nothing. The Premier said nothing. The FedEx, Helen Zille, said nothing. All that we are being used for is votes. Die DA is 'n breinkrein met 'n wit kop. Maar wat anders verwag ons van die DA? Hulle is baie
Honourable Van Wyk, just take your seat for a moment. I have a hand to my left. Honourable member, why do you want to be recognised?
Chair, there is an unparliamentary language. Someone is saying someone is talking rubbish. This is so unhonorable as members. Please, can you condemn that language, Chair?
Chair, I withdraw unreservedly.
Thank you. It's been dealt with. Please proceed, Honourable Van Wyk.
House Chair, thank you. Maar ons weet mos in South Africa die madams swak mos maar so. Volgens die berichten van gister was het in Beacon Valley, Tafelsig Town Center, Mitchells Plain, wat onze mensen weer eens soos vliee doodgeskiet geweest het en baie beseer was. Until this hour, they have never said anything as the DA in the Western Cape. Historically, first our people were wiped out with smallpox in the 1700s. Then they went for our language and our culture. And then in 1950, the Race Classification Act was introduced to deal with our identity. Then, after the forced removals, a system was created to feed our people with guns, drugs, and alcohol, keep us in fighting and wiping each other out, while they can benefit from the land who historically belongs to us. Minister Mchunu, you are not the DA government in the Western Cape. Apply your budget to the Cape Flats and all other affected colored communities across South Africa, including the Indian and the Black areas. But the focus should be on the Cape Flats. The persistent socio-economic disparities faced by the colored communities of the Cape Flats, as well as our historically marginalized Indian and Black areas across South Africa, demand urgent and decisive intervention for the protection of all races. We will no longer no longer go with empty promises while our people suffer. In my own hometown, in Bloemfontein, Nederland, 7 people was shot just in 4 months. 4 died. That has never happened in the history of Nederland, but it's a new thing that is happening in Nederland, Bloemfontein. And there even, one of the guys who died, his birthday was just yesterday, Minister. It was so unnecessary. Let us not become the Democratic Alliance, which doesn't do anything or say anything. Ek wil ook 'n beroep doen op alle gemeenskappe, organisasies en aktiviste landwyd om te rally sodat daar 'n state of emergency kan geroep word op die Cape Flats. En ek wil ook vra dat al die Afrikaanse hip-hop artists songs create om awareness campaigns te kan create against those who oversee the Western Cape. One life lost in gang violence is too many. In conclusion, the PA does not only support the budget, but we also support the Minister Groenewald for his call for the death
Thank you,
penalty.
Honorable Van Wyk.
Yeah, a slash.
Thank you. Your time has now expired. Honorable Wessels.
Honorable House Chairperson, the reality is that people in South Africa are suffering due to still rampant levels of especially violent crime. And that nobody in this House can deny. We must be careful as members to make small politics of such a very important issue that is in the lives of our people out there and where people are suffering and where they are unsafe. Die agbare van Wyk moet veral versigtig wees om kleinlike politiek van mense se lewens te maak. Maar net so moet ander agbare lede ook versigtig wees. Following the latest killing of 7 people, shooting of 7 people in Gugulethu, the Honourable Minister said, what the police ministry and police top management must refuse to do is to treat this as a normal trend and keep the normal methods of policing in place. And I want to agree with the Honourable Minister. And it's not only applicable to the violence and the rampant violence in the Cape Flats, the gang violence, but it is applicable to policing and to crime fighting in South Africa. We need new methods. We need new strategies. It's also a reality that there is a lot of corruption within the police service, but we must commend the Minister and his team for addressing a lot of that already and making strides and progress with regards to arrests and investigations, but a lot more has to be done. It's also a reality that a lot of our police stations around the country, especially rural police stations, are severely under-resourced, with no holding cells, with a lack of vehicles, and especially some of the procurement processes, Minister, leads to these shortages of functioning vehicles because of strict procurement that does not work in our rural communities and towns. We need to address that. Also, the shortages of detectives, 2,344 vacancies at the moment, needs to be addressed because we can't address crime without functioning detectives and being able to really investigate those crimes. We have to praise those police officials and thank them for their service that are sacrificing their lives, risking their lives, their safety under very difficult circumstances. And I do believe that the majority of our officers and officials are of that caliber, and that they are trying to serve, that they are not there only for a job, but that they are serving the communities. But then it is of utmost importance that those bad apples be removed from the service and be addressed. We cannot allow corruption, and we cannot allow people that are not dedicated to really addressing the safety concerns of our communities out there in our police service. Let me thank you, Minister, once again for you and your team, the Commissioner, and all top management who is dedicated. But let's address the shortcomings, let's acknowledge the shortcomings, and let's make South Africa a safer place. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We invite the Honourable Kobe.
Thank you for that. Honorable House Chair, XA today rises to register our rejection of Vote 28, Vote 21, and Vote 24. We reject these votes, Honorable House Chair, not because they represent more of the same in the face of a crime crisis that continues to terrorize the lives of ordinary South Africans. No amount of polished plans or rebranded performance indicators can hide the hard truth. Our country is becoming more dangerous by the day, and this government has lost control. The SAP's budget of 120.88 billion may appear substantial on paper, but it is divorced from lived reality. Violent crime is out of control. Murder, rape, kidnappings, extortion, construction mafias, and organized crime syndicates continue to operate with impunity. Citizens are prisoners in their own homes while police stations are chronically under-resourced, detectives overwhelmed, and communities abandoned. We note the over 180,000 applications received is a powerful sign of public willingness to serve and protect. Yet, it is a tragic reflection of our failing state because SAPS remains chronically understaffed and underperforming, with a growing backlog of cases which are ironically worsened by limited human resource. The tragedy in all of this is that the 180,000 people who applied will probably not be absorbed, not because they are unfit, but because of poor planning, cadre deployment, and a lack of political will to expand our policing capacity. The Civilian Secretariat has received 172 million, but where is the civilian oversight? How is this budget being implemented when not a single community across South Africa is even aware of the existence of this body? Where is the consequence for police officers who act unlawfully? The Independent Police Investigative Directorate, entrusted with accountability, has been allocated 428.6 million, yet its track record of consequence management is dismal. Fewer than 1% of police implicated in brutality or criminal acts face meaningful disciplinary action. Allow me to give an account of these. 16-year-old Nathaniel Julius, who lived with Down syndrome, was shot and killed by the police from Eldorado subs in August 2020. Several policemen were implicated, all of them out on bail. Why should we support this budget? Mandla Buthelezi, another SAPS member, charged with killing 22-year-old Gauteng crime warden Chesney Kepler after a domestic dispute on Boxing Day in 2024. Despite him shooting while on duty with a state firearm, this brutal killing wasn't enough for a dismissal. The member was allowed to resign and get his full benefits. Again, why should we support this budget? In the Western Cape, right here, SAPS members were caught transporting drugs. They were reinstated. They were given a slap on the wrist recommendation and reinstated. Again, we ask, why should we support this budget? Crime does not need more conferences, reports, or imbizos. It needs capable leadership, honest officers, and visible policing. It needs an IPID that is independent and competent, not an IPID that remains entangled in political interference and bureaucratic paralysis. In good conscience, we cannot support budgets that throw billions at toothless oversight bodies while communities bury their loved ones weekly. We cannot support budgets that fail to confront the rot in SAPS or ignore the urgent need for professional police service that serves the people of South Africa. If my colleague was here, Honorable James would say, "Sua kan dit nie aangaan nie." We reject these budget votes. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now invite the Honorable Ghana.
Nakenza Mtramashtul. Honorable members, fellow South Africans, let me say it plainly. South Africans are not safe. We are not safe. We live in fear. I said this last time. That's why some of you, Minister, you have bodyguards. We live in fear in our homes, our streets, and even in the institutions of learning. Criminals are bold. And you know why? It's because they don't believe they'll ever be caught. And sadly, most of them are right. Even when they are caught, it takes years before a trial begins because of the time it takes to finalize the case. Minister, this cannot continue. Rise Mzansi stands to build a safe, prosperous, equal, and united South Africa in one generation. But we cannot build anything if the people are afraid. This week, I was approached by the grieving family of Amgelang Mujisele, who was murdered in Garankuwa. Her alleged killer is a parolee and is known. But justice is stuck. You know why? Because DNA results are still outstanding. This delay adds fresh trauma to families already broken by loss. And this is not an isolated case. We have to fix our forensic labs. No more excuses. DNA delays means that killers roam free. The detection rate for murder, it's sitting at 10%. 10%. That means 90% of murderers get away with it. That number should shake this house. It certainly shakes the trust South Africans have in the police. Detectives are failing, not because they don't care, but the system is broken and we need to fix it. And while the public suffers, senior officials, especially those at crime intelligence, are fighting over slush funds and the Secret Service account. Let's not pretend otherwise. It's about the money, not securing the people of this country. And as Rise Mzansi, we want to say that we want to see every official, including the clerks, everyone that works at procurement and supply chain must undergo a lifestyle audit. Because that's where corruption breeds and that's where trust dies. And to the brave officers who protect us, we want to see them promoted. We want to see you backing them. and we must stop promoting underperformance. This budget must not protect positions. It must protect the people of South Africa. South Africans want one thing and one thing only. They want to feel safe. Let's stop talking, let's stop fighting in the police, and let's focus on keeping the people of South Africa safe.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We now invite the Deputy Minister of Police, Dr. Bushelo.
Thank you very much, House Chair, members of Parliament, Minister Mkunu and Deputy Minister Matali. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Chairperson, Independent Police Investigation Directorate, IPID, plays a critical oversight role, which is key in our ministry. Their optimal performance and agility are particularly essential at this juncture. It is imperative that police misconduct and criminality become a thing of the past. Our officers are committed to ensuring that they uphold the rule of law, and in instances where they are not, IPID must exercise its legislative mandate. IPID continues to operate independently without fear, favor, or prejudice. In the process, IPID must do so in a corrective rather than punitive measure. For this financial year 25-26, IPID have identified 6 key priorities. The first one is the backlog cases. I think members have been talking about that, which include death in police custody, death as a result of police action, discharge of official firearm, rape by a police officer, assault, torture, corruption, and all other matters. They also want to prioritize gender-based violence and femicide cases in terms of the police. In accordance with the President's declaration that GBVF constituted a national crisis, it will continue to be prioritized. A zero-tolerance approach will be adopted, especially in police services, and all perpetrators must be brought to book. In the financial year 2024-25, the following successes were realized. 92 cases of rape were finalized, 21 departmental convictions were secured, and 11 criminal convictions also were secured. So furthermore, in this current financial year, more investigators will be upskilled on the investigation of sexual offenses to decrease GBVF-related cases in the subs. And we're going also to establish forensic investigation unit. An in-house forensic investigation capability is crucial to improve the quality of investigation. This includes the recruitment of financial data analysts, cyber forensic experts, and crime analysts, and the procurement of a forensic electronic system to enhance efficiency. We're also going to establish a call center where members can be members of the community and other key stakeholders can communicate and access challenges and access the call center if they need to at all times. We're actually looking at the call center operating 24 hours. And we'll register the complaints that the key stakeholders have and deal with them. And the system will also make it possible for us to track where they are in terms of the cases that have been reported. We're also going to develop a new case management system. The existing case management system will be upgraded in the current financial year to facilitate the categorization of gender-based violence and femicide cases. This enhancement aims to improve monitoring capabilities, ensure data security, and enhance performance reporting within the justice, crime, prevention, and security cluster, ultimately contributing to improved operational efficiency. The last one is the training and capacity development of IPID employees. IPID have signed a memorandum of understanding with various institutions to enhance the competencies of investigators. This includes crime scene management and fraud with association of certified fraud examiners, cyber forensic first responded procurement and corruption with a special investigating unit, SASET provided the funding for the training of investigators on the internal investigation course and executive management program. Chairperson, in conclusion, we remained steadfast in our commitment to combat crime and well-being and development of personnel, especially in our police system. We are also disturbed by the killing of our police, of which many of us are not saying anything about it. We would also like to extend our sincere appreciation to all heads of entities in this collaboration effort in fulfilling the mandate of the JCPS cluster and ensuring citizens of South Africa are and feel safe, as the SAPS will continue to stem the authority of the state without fear or favor. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. We now invite the Honorable, the Reverend Meshwe.
Honorable Speaker, ministers, members, our nation is sending out an SOS, a cry for service, order, and safety. The Department of Police, together with the Independent Police Investigative Directorate and the Civilian Secretariat, at the front line of restoring or are at the front line of restoring or further eroding public trust. This year alone, we have witnessed mass arrests of senior SAPS officials. These include a civilian with no policing background, controversially appointed to a brigadier post in crime intelligence, one of our most sensitive national security divisions. Despite a budget of increase to 113.6 billion rands in 2024-25, systemic failures persist. We are duty bound to ask the question, will increased spending without personal integrity and moral values improve safety in our country? And the answer is no. Violent crime, kidnappings, and gender-based violence rages on. 10,600 rape cases were reported in just 3 months. These are not statistics, ladies and gentlemen. They are shattered lives and broken families. On 26 June 2025, the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption arrested 7 senior SAPS officials on charges of fraud, corruption, and abuse of state resources. They arrest them from the controversial appointment of a Mr. Mukwele, a civilian with no policing background, to a brigadier post in crime intelligence. More allegations obviously include falsified qualifications, manipulated recruitment processes, and unauthorized use of public funds. Some of the accused allegedly bypassed critical vetting procedures, raising serious concerns about the integrity of SAP's internal security. This is particularly alarming given the sensitive nature of crime intelligence operations. The ACDP supports calls by the forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan of National Commissioner, Fanny Masemola, to suspend the 7 crime intelligence officers who were arrested for fraud, corruption, and defeating the ends of justice. Chairperson, the ACDP champions righteous government. We support the deployment of modern technology, drones, body cameras, forensics, but these must be paired with integrity and ethical leadership. Let us not waste another year debating crime figures while South Africans live in fear. Let us restore law and order, and Mr. Honorable Minister, clean house, get rid of the criminals in the police, get rid of the rotten potatoes. Otherwise, stop asking the communities to work with the police who might teach them how to be corrupt. Thank you.
Thank you. We now invite the Honorable Kwankwa. Kwankwa.
Mandiqale ndithi minister ndizenonyana mapha ngoku andizukwazi ugeza ndibiza abantu ngamasela. Uhleli phaa uthi izikolo zivaliwe ufuna ubona uyise xa edwekesha apha. Chair, this budget vote compels us to face a harsh reality that the crisis in policing is not merely about statistics, but about shattered families and broken communities. Between 2020 and 2025, as you most probably already know, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate received about 4,466 complaints against SAPS officers in the Eastern Cape alone. Nationally, as you are aware, IPD is burdened with nearly 15,000 unresolved cases, including about almost 1.5 deaths caused by police action, 20 allegations of torture, 97 cases of rape by the police. Coming back to the Eastern Cape again, the tragic case of Lulamela Mxaka, a 25-year-old agriculture graduate from Engqeleni, shot dead in front of his family due to mistaken identity, highlights the failure of our system. Despite confirmation from IPID, no officers have been suspended or arrested, leaving the family in anguish and the perpetrators still in uniform. The situation is worsened by IPID's severe resource constraints in provinces, I don't want to belabor the point, such as the Eastern Cape again. Nationally, Minister have also alluded to this fact that detective shortage is equally dire. South Africa faces a shortage of more than 2,300 detectives, with some provinces, including the Western Cape, that was mentioned earlier, experiencing serious deficits insofar as this is concerned. Detectives are overburdened, each carrying up to 300 to 500 cases, with staggering 1.9 million case dockets pending nationwide. This overload denies victims justice and fosters a culture of impunity. You acknowledge this, Minister, as untenable, but it would be great to see a proper strategy of how we seek to address it. We do welcome the increase in budget allocations to IPID. We do welcome the increase in budget allocations to the Investigation Provincial Coordination Program as a step of trying a good step towards addressing these problems. Kodwa ezilalini, Minister, ndiyayivuyela laa nto yenziwa phana ngumkhwanazi phaa kwelaa phondo lase-KZN. Ezigezela amapolisa mazikhatywe. Uba zifuna ubulala amapolisa nabantu boMzantsi Afrika maziyodityaniswa nezinyanya, asingabazi kuloo nto. Okwesibini, kukho nesaa sigezo siqhubeka kula maphondo, ufumanise ukuthi kubiwa imfuyo zabantu, ilanga lihlaba umhlaba, kusemini bangene bazithathe, sebengalelanga bezithatha ngemipu, bazixhele besagqiba siphinde siyotya loo nyama thina phaa kwamamyangichaza. Kodwa ebuhlungu into yoba ngamanye amaxesha ufumanise ukuthi amapolisa akhona kwezi zinto, amanye ayazazi, ayazikhusela as criminals. The same way ekwenzeka ngayo apha kwi-extortion at times. Thank you.
Honorable Member. We invite the Honorable Maiman.
Honorable House Chairperson Bakhaid Sudumelang. Minister, I'm very cautious as I stand here today to understand that this matter can either be reduced to political football, or we can be serious about the crisis our country faces. It's deeply worrying that when we try and use the budget to communicate other political points and fail to see the fact that South Africa is in a criminal emergency. When it comes to allocation for VIP protection, Minister, that sits at 2 billion rands. I would argue, in all fairness, there are more police people here today in this precinct than there are in any other police station in the vicinity. It says to the people of South Africa that we think political lives matter more than people's lives. And I want to argue here today, it's about time that we reform what we do about policing. When I reflect on this budget, in all fairness, there are only 188,000 funded posts. That is a decrease from 197,872 in 2012. In material terms, it means that we have less police than we had in 2012. In South Africa, it means that there are more private security than there are actual SAPs. In this country, what those stats eventually deliver for us as a people is that, yes, there are 64 murders that take place a day. And I don't think this is a matter that we can ignore because it speaks to the whole of government, because it impacts who invests in this country. No one is going to put money in this country when they feel their people are not safe. So we need to make some tough decisions today. It cannot be business as usual and we keep going. Minister, if it requires that we amend even the constitutional provision that makes SAPS only a national competence, let's go ahead and do that. Because we've got metro police that sit around in communities that track for my license and nonsense like that, whilst in fact criminals are going around murdering people. And if the probability of a murderer ending up in jail is 1 in 5, then we've already lost the battle before we can speak. So I'm here to propose that in fact, let's partner with local municipalities, decentralize some of their functions. Let's prioritize murder and make sure we fund it accordingly. Let's ensure that stations are more capacitated so that the police to citizen ratio is decreasing. And ultimately, let's specialize and train detectives. I want to welcome all the men or men and women in blue who have been corrupt, who have been fired. Let us welcome that and let us support that. The job of this budget today is for all of us to say, let's declare an emergency on crime. Let's find more money from other departments and fund this. And just because the budget is not sufficient is not enough to say we're not supporting it. We are supporting, we need more money, and let's take action, let's go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, honorable members. We invite the Deputy Minister of Police, Deputy Minister Matale. Order,
Thank you.
honorable members.
Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members,
Minister,
order. May we afford the
Deputy
Deputy
Minister, the Chair of the Portfolio Committee, and the members of the committee, members present. It's factually incorrect to say that not a single community is aware of this body, referring to the Civilian Secretariat for Police Service, as one member from Action SA said. Yes, there is a need to strengthen the capacity within the Civilian Secretariat, but that they are not known is not factual. The deployment that is being done now to recruit the 5,000 members through the electronic system is not cadre deployment. Those who will not have been taken into the system is because of the numbers. 5,000 vis-a-vis the level of people who must come into the system is it speaks for itself. It is incorrect to say that we take instruction from AfriForum. If you wish certain investigation to take a particular turn and they don't, as you had wanted, Honorable Matthias, you should not resort to that analysis because it's completely unscientific and incorrect. In order to deliver effectively on the mandate of the Civilian Secretariat for Police, the department is allocated a total budget of 172,245 million for the 25-26 financial year, which is an increase from the previous budget. This increase is for the filling of the 2 posts of Deputy Directors General and their support staff, as well as the cost of living adjustment to 2025-26. The micro-organizational structure is being reviewed in order to increase capacity in line with the departmental strategy and mandate. And the funding for this new structure will be done in the MTF processes. The Civilian Secretariat for Police developed the Integrated Crime and Violence Prevention Strategy, which was approved by Cabinet and remains one of the apex strategic interventions to reduce violence and crime in a holistic approach in all spheres of government. Coordinated reporting on this strategy, a national committee has been established comprising of the JCPS departments and other key stakeholders. The work of this committee will be reported to FOSAD, Cabinet, and other key structures outlining key achievements and challenges in the fight against crime and violence in the country. On the key policy intervention, Civilian Secretariat for Police has developed the National Policing Policy,
which was approved by Cabinet on 14 May 2025. Honorable members, this is a significant policy shift in the South African policing environment. CSPS will also focus on the finalization of the policy on familial DNA searches, which gives effect to Section 15M of the Criminal Law Amendment Act 37. We will, during this financial year, Chair, present to this Parliament the South African Police Amendment Bill, which has gone through the final stages through Cabinet, and it will be served in Parliament and ultimately to the Portfolio Committee. In the spirit of the whole of society and the whole of government approaches championed by the ICVPS, the Ministry of Police has entered into partnership with critical stakeholders to enhance police performance through cooperative agreements with provinces and municipalities, aimed at sharing a vision for cooperative agreement with provinces and municipalities. And in this regard, we have signed with the Eastern Cape, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Western Cape, and of course, their respective metros in this regard. We will also be undertaking assessment to determine the effectiveness of the established community safety forums and community policing forums. Members, in our concerted effort to contribute to the effective implementation of the National Strategic Plan on GBV, we will continue to conduct the following initiative: monitoring SAPS compliant, oversight visit and court watching briefs, awareness campaigns, which we'll be doing to ensure that this is implemented. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. We invite the Honorable Cameron.
There we go. Thank you. Honourable House Chair, Minister of Police, Deputy Ministers of Police, the team from the South African Police Service at the back. I want to start with something regarding the question of integrity. I think the very any effective police service anywhere around the world has integrity as a foundation. It shouldn't just be seen as a slogan or some abstract concept. And in terms of policing, I think we should be able to say that it must be a very practical commitment that we make in terms of honesty, accountability, professionalism, and in policing terms, putting the safety and the well-being of the public above all else in the country. Without integrity, no amount of money, no fleet of vehicles or surge in personnel can rescue a broken policing system. Without integrity, there is no budget that can rescue SAPS, IPID, or CIRA, or the Secretariat for that matter. Today, we debate a budget that's meant to fight crime, and we cannot pretend that this budget exists in a vacuum. It exists within institutions that really are battling under the weight of corruption, sometimes here and there incompetence, and the erosion of public trust. And this budget is being tabled by the South African Police Service itself, is grappling with a multi-layered integrity crisis. Many of the speakers have mentioned the arrest of said generals and senior crime intelligence officials, and were arrested, and some already appeared in court. This all regarding alleged fraud and corruption. It's important then to also say that the very fund that is linked to this is meant to protect the Republic, but unfortunately, as Honourable Ghana said earlier, is often fought about in order to gain access to that. How can we expect to dismantle gangs, kidnapping syndicates, extortion mafias, when the very agency responsible for gathering intelligence has been infiltrated by crime itself? These examples that I mentioned can be linked to what happened in Mitchell's Plain yesterday. There was no proactive intelligence structure that indicated or anticipated any form of attack yesterday, yet close to 15 people were shot. I've heard many of the different numbers. The point is that these are war zone rates, and with the correct intelligence system, we would be able to anticipate that. When integrity fails at the top, it simply collapses at the bottom, and gang violence is a very good example of this. In terms of the anti-gang unit in the Western Cape, as an example, it operates at the resourcing level of a captain, yet should be receiving the resourcing of a brigadier unit. Maybe we should consider a parliamentary inquiry or some kind of a commission to bring about some kind of strategy change when it comes to gang violence. At the Philippi Training Academy, everyone implicated in alleged corruption in the management team still works at the academy and are training the police of the future. And the Hawks keep on telling us that they are still inquiring. Rural crime continues, and the rural safety strategy sometimes feel like just ink on paper, with police members doing incredible work with so little resources that it is impossible for them to do any kind of real implementation without the support, leadership, and resources that they need. Detective services often hollowed out. We've got up to or just over 3,000 vacancies in the country, and the ongoing stagnation in salaries and limited career progression and opportunities for admin personnel in the South African Police Service remains a significant concern. Debate, including administrative personnel under the SAPS Act, should be revisited to ensure fair recognition and improved conditions for these members in the service. With CIRA regarding the UIF fraud scandal, far over 100 million rand unaccounted for and exposes serious misconduct within the regulator, despite our recommendation from Parliament to suspend the CEO and CFO, they continue with business as usual. Without a credible CIRA, we can't expect a credible private security industry, as we already saw during our oversight in the Eastern Cape. Then, despite the bleak reality, there are reasons to believe that integrity-driven reform is still possible. Well-designed SAPS reforms, which a minister has undertaken to implement, is a genuine opportunity. It can reform command structures, embed civilian oversight, and enforce decentralized policing. I'm encouraged by serious proposals to shift SAPS towards the integrated prosecution-led investigation model and also a general intelligence-led driven policing system. This is the only approach really capable of closing the gap between arrest and conviction, a gap that currently feels more like a canyon. The shift that we've seen regarding this is a vital step to improving the conviction rate. It's especially encouraging to see the significant leap in bettering the SAPS forensic capacity, which will hopefully make DNA backlogs a problem of the past. There's also a welcome step towards modernization. Diemboshielo mentioned earlier about call centers, but also in terms of 10111, transitioning to digital talking systems, GPS integration, and dispatch automation. We must give credit where it's due and also give credit to the good, brave men and women that wear that uniform with pride and do incredible work despite the circumstances and the challenges that they work in. This budget is certainly not a silver bullet, but integrity, real enforceable integrity can be, and thus we support the budget vote for today. I thank you.
Thank you. We invite the Honorable Muela.
Thank you, House Chair. Let me start by extending my sincere condolences to the family of the former Deputy President, President David Dabete Mabuza, the people of Mpumalanga, and the people of South Africa. House Chair, members of the executive, the minister, and deputy ministers, the National Commissioner, honorable members, as the ANC, we welcome the 120 billion budget allocation for police, civil secretariat, and IP as it is anchored by the National Development Plan, aligned to the ANC manifesto commitments, which include intensifying the fight against crime, strengthening our response to gender-based violence and femicide, keeping our homes and streets safe, protecting our borders, and creating employment opportunities. Though no budget can ever be enough to, we are at least confident that this allocation will be able to respond to some of the pressing concerns, including the crime of murder, illegal firearms, extortion capacity, and resourcing. Due to administration, the construction and maintenance of the police stations is fast becoming a burning issue under the conditions we find police stations in. It is no-brainer that a person's working environment will most likely impact on their morale, and what is why we need to push for the devolution of functions from the Department of Public Works to South African Police Service, so that the South African Police Service can be somewhat more self-sufficient when it comes to the issues of repairs and maintenance. We need police stations to be maintained and adequately resourced. We have had in far too many cases, instances where a police station did not even have basic paper, stationery, and working tools to carry on their work efficiently and their mandate. The other issue is the number of vehicles in the fleet services. Too many times we hear of what could have been preventable taking place simply because there was no vehicle to attend to the scene because the vehicle was engaged elsewhere. We need to know how many of these vehicles are there, ready and available to service our communities and our societies. With regard to building confidence and trust to the people of South Africa, the people of South Africa want professional and quality policing, efficient and effective service delivery, active public and community policing, strong and ethical leadership and governance. The dignity and moral fiber of South African police services must be protected and restored at all material times. We cannot afford to keep receiving demeaning and concerning reports of members of the police involved in corruption and extortion, members of the police raping victims of crime, members of police being involved in serious and violent crimes and turning their own family dwellings into crime scenes of domestic violence and perpetuating the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide. We acknowledge the role of IPID in investigating such cases, and we call for speedy resolution of the IPID backlog cases so that those who must be made to account. We must be clear and firm that nobody is above the law. This brings me to the second point, Honorable Chair, that as the Portfolio Committee of Police, we have noted the recent developments with regard to General Kumalo and Associates. We welcome the bold and positive step by South African Police Service to investigate allegations of corruption within their own ranks. Corruption in the police force at all levels undermines the arrows of public trust and confidence. We welcome these developments in two fronts, that the police are now inward looking and not humane to allegations of corruption, and also that the police are determined to run a clean administration in this term. This is the first step towards rebuilding public trust and confidence in the police, and we welcome these developments with open hands. With regard to the employment and job creation that we have seen, we have noted the statement of the police detailing that over 158,000 applications have been received in a space of 48 hours on the application going live. Through this is a progressive step towards the realization of personnel capacitation among the South African Police Service. We are disappointed that the number has been decreased from the original 10,000 number. The response in these applications of 185,000 plus people competing for 5,000 posts goes to show just how much people of South Africa need employment opportunities. We note the 15,000 case backlog confronting IPID and the main case drivers being assault, discharge of an official firearm, and death due to police action. We urge the police ministry to look into skills transfer and train a new crop of investigators that will be able to successfully investigate these cases. We call for South African Police Service to stretch this budget to cater for the hiring of short-term administrative clerks to assist with case backlogs and also to create further employment opportunities over and above the 5,000 established posts which have been advertised. Young people are sitting at home, Honorable Minister. Qualified graduates, nurses, social workers, lawyers, criminologists, all whom are waiting for an opportunity to showcase their skills and capabilities to South African government. With regard to the extortions, our crime intelligence must be able to detect and prevent extortion crimes. We have an emerging threat of extortions that targets individuals running businesses and some parts of the transport industry. The Western Cape has been particularly hard hit by the extortion economy, particularly because of its existing and related gang violence problem. We have been made aware of the township enterprises extortions targeting both formal and informal businesses, particularly in the Cape Flats, Kaelisha, Kukuletu, Yanga. The transport industry is also under threat, more especially as it pertains to the buses, taxis, and private vehicles on-road rivalry. The crime of extortion must be taken very seriously as it undermines businesses, the growth of the township economy, and disrupts peace and order, creating a climate of fear and instability. If the government is not a place where it can provide employment opportunities for all, surely it should not be too much to ask for protection and safety in pursuing individuals who are in business. South Africans are desperately waiting for intelligence-driven strategies to combat extortion crime networks. South African Police Service has not been very effective and coordinated in the response of the growing crime, and we hope that in the year 2025 and year 2026 financial year, we'll see more focus in this particular area and more increase in terms of this particular crime. While we emphasize on the need for improvement of crime intelligence, we must also take note that the whistleblower culture in South Africa is one of the fear and distrust, and we need the South African Police Service to actively embark on awareness and trust-building campaigns, emphasizing on the importance of crime reporting, even if it is done anonymously so. With regard to illicit firearms and violent murderers that are partaking in our country, we remember the family of 18 from Lesigisig. We remember the family of 5 from Biti village in the Eastern Cape, OR Tambo district. Patrons from Mary Me settlement in the north of Pretoria. The Guguletu mass shooting from 5 days ago. To name but few. Every day we are informed of a bloodbath of firearm-related murders, which highlight the extent of the rampant flow of firearms that cannot be accounted for. The mass shootings in the country, as witnessed across the provinces, have signaled the alarm for stricter legislative and other measures to ensure public safety. It is in this breath, Honorable Minister, that we welcome the prioritization of the Control Act and SIRA Amendment Bill. In the current climate of violent crimes, the ANC welcomes these positive steps towards the clamping down of illicit firearms and determination towards working to realization the African Union vision of silencing the guns by 2030. The ANC remains firm on its commitment to fighting crime and keeping our homes and streets safe. The ANC supports this budget vote. Thank for vote 28, 24, and 21. Honorable Chairperson, we are noting consistently inconsistent remarks here, which were made by our honorable member from MKP, who is calling for 2 billion for lab, which he wants to welcome so that we increase our lab. But
Honorable member, your
inconsistency,
time has expired.
he calls for that particular move while. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We invite the minister to close and respond to the debate. Order, honorable members.
Thank you very much, Honorable House Chair. Honestly, let's be honest. Those amongst us here who say they don't support the budget, what they mean in reality is that in the areas and homes where they come from, they want us to withdraw services that are there, because those people won't be paid if you do so. But your reaction shows that what you are saying here is unrealistic. It's actually being excessive, unnecessary. That's the first point.
Order, honorable members.
The second point is that
Order, honorable members. You
let me
are
state-
allowed, but you cannot drown the speaker.
let me state what is happening on DPCI recruitment. There are 85 posts that are going to be externally advertised very soon. And there will be an addition of 175 soon after that. And currently there are 250 police trainees in this regard that are undergoing training. And they will all be seconded to DPCI because it's very important that we strengthen that particular aspect. On detectives, we are currently re-recruiting, in other words, re-enlisting 200 detectives. And these are experienced and selected among those that were doing very well before they retired. So we're calling them back so that we reinforce and strengthen detectives. And the next one is the Harankua and Ngilin and stock theft that honorable members highlighted here will be followed, especially where, I mean, the Harankua, where you have a problem of DNA. I may as well take this opportunity that before the end of the year, and it's real this time around, a temporal lab in KZN is going to be functional, which will be very helpful in terms of reducing backlogs that are piling up in Gauteng. And CSIR negotiations are being completed to ensure that we will have additional service from CSIR on forensic. And we're hoping that that will go somewhere in meeting our obligations. I do want to further say, we want to take this opportunity and be honest and say, there are many men and women in blue who are absolutely committed, which is a complete delight. I mean, to see them in action and to hear them talking and to hear them even saying to you, hey, please support us here, support us. Absolute delight. You almost melt when you come, when you hear them talk. So we want to take this opportunity and thank them because they exist. And in fact, they are in majority than the ones that all of us are complaining about. But I agree with members. If there is one person in SAPS who is corrupt, they destroy everything that SAPS is about. And therefore, we remain very committed to dealing with those elements that are stubborn and want to continue to be corrupt. And we won't tolerate that. It's clear. Now, the next point that I want to make as I conclude is the budget. I agree with honorable members. It's about making an effort to be effective and to be impactful on the ground and among the people on the ground. Hence the crafting of the latest interventions that we need to implement urgently, because people will only be convinced that they and be made to feel safe when they see action on the ground. They see police, they see all these culprits getting dealt with. And of course, we're very much prepared for that. And it may be tough, but we're going there. And I want to assure all of you and all South Africans, we, on our commitments, we're not going to fail South Africa in any way. Thank you very much.
Sibonge Ngqongqoshe. Malunga lahloniphekile. Malunga lahloniphekile sesifike emaphethelweni enkulumo mpikiswano yokuphakela kwetimali kwemaphoyisa. Emalunga lahloniphekile ayakhunjutwa ukuthi inkulumo iyachubeka yelitiko le-Government Communication and Information Systems emva kwelihora lekuqala. Loko kusho ukuthi indlu ingasasukuma. Siyabonga.